what is the truth about Lincoln Riley? Head coach at USC. Yes, that's true. He was the head coach at Oklahoma before that. Yes, that's true. Lincoln Riley, he seems like he's been doing this for a while because he has. I think there are probably a lot of people watching the show who would tell you they believe Lincoln Riley will never get it done. He can't do this. He cannot do that. We believe more in hasn't rather than can't on this show. Semantics, though. He's 41 years old. Anybody who thinks he can't do something, I just caution you, he's 41 years old. Lincoln Riley could coach 12 more years, and then he would only be as old as Nick Saban was when Saban won his first national title. All I'm trying to caution you on is just let's pump the brakes a little bit on saying a guy can't do something when the greatest of all time had not done that thing you're talking about until he was 12 years older than Lincoln Riley is right now. That's all I'm saying. It's classic victim of the 10 or trash era, as I like to call it. You say it quickly, 10 or trash, 10 or trash. It sounds like you're really hating on a musical group on stage or maybe the University of Tennessee. No, 10 or trash is either you're a 10 or you're trash. Ring culture poisoned the well of conversation in college football and sports. So if you hadn't won a title, there is a buddy you have, or maybe you are the buddy, and that buddy or you screams, well, what has he won? What has he won? What has he done? I take the opposite approach. It's nice to have won a title. It's a big deal. I do think there's some quality coaches out there that haven't won national championships. So Lincoln Riley, his defenses have been very questionable, very, very suspect to outright bad. But one of the things we do know is these are his total offense numbers. Since he's been a head coach, first, third, 11th, 18th, 3rd, 10th, and 23rd. He's had 3 Heisman winning quarterbacks. He's had 3 number 1 overall draft pick quarterbacks. He's had 5 double-digit win seasons out of the 8 that he's been a head coach. One of those was the COVID season, and he won 9 games that year. So what do we know? Lincoln Riley doesn't suck. He's not terrible. He's also not the greatest coach walking the planet right now. There are some out there with better resumes. There are far more out there with worse resumes than better. And so Lincoln Riley is a top 15 active head coach, safely, probably better than that, but we'll see where we rate him. We'll do that a little bit later on. Anyway, suffice it to say, there's a lot of good about Lincoln Riley, and then there's some bad. His defenses have been nothing to write home about. Because basically, if you're a detractor here, all you would say is, you just gave me reason to believe he's a great offensive coordinator, Josh. I want to believe he's a great head coach. Fair point. Fair point. Okay, point taken. And there's a lot of criticism about Lincoln Riley, the head coach, which is fair, and I'll get to in a second. But there's also a lot of criticism about the way he left Oklahoma. And for the crowd that doesn't like Lincoln Riley, I find that not all of them despise Lincoln Riley because they don't like the way he puts a staff together. A lot of you don't like Lincoln Riley because you don't like the way he carries himself or you don't like the way he left Oklahoma. And if you're an Oklahoma fan, I'll never ask you to like Lincoln Riley, nor do I need you to think rationally about this. I get it. The dude left you in the dead of night. A lot of people perceived it as he was running away from the SEC. Because remember, you get the headline, Oklahoma and Texas are going to the SEC. Hey, quick timeout. Check and see if you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. If you're not, I humbly ask that you click subscribe. It's free. It doesn't sign you up for anything. What it does is it helps us keep this show free so we can just do college football year-round. All right, back to the clip. And then you get the headline, Lincoln Riley is bolting for Southern California in the middle of the night. It was crazy. It was really crazy. And remember, I think history is going to be miswritten on this. History will show, egregiously, erroneously, that Lincoln Riley wasn't really running from the SEC because he was just going to the Big Ten. That's false. I can't prove to you Lincoln Riley was running away from the SEC or not. Many of you think he was, but he was running to the Pac-12. Nobody knew USC was going to the Big Ten yet, and you'll never convince me he knew. They were working on it out there. I don't know that they sold him on that. I don't know that he ran from the SEC. He, of course, says he didn't. I'm not here to litigate that. You can have your opinion on that. But I will say he was going to what he thought was the Pac-12, and then it turned into USC in the Big Ten. And I completely get if you're an Oklahoma fan, you don't like how he left. I don't care if you're an Illinois fan. You could take issue, umbrage, as Meemaw would say, with how he left. Lincoln Riley doesn't do a whole lot of media. Lincoln Riley probably doesn't consume a whole lot of media. So it seems to me he never found it necessary to explain himself, which is fine. He doesn't owe anyone anything. I think he probably could have done himself some favors there. But if he doesn't care about public perception, then he doesn't care. So there's that. Now, it is my opinion that he made a couple of tactical errors when he took the USC job. And the first one was, I don't think he staffed right. I don't think he staffed defensively right. Now, it's really complicated. When you take a new job and you're coming from a previous job and you're not taking a new job because you're a coordinator. Like, let me back up. Think about how uncommon Lincoln Riley's hire at USC was. Most of the time when you get hired, you're a coordinator somewhere and you're taking a head coaching job. So no one was working for you previously because you were working for someone, and now you're getting your shot. Or you're a head coach at a smaller program, and then you're getting a call up to the big time. And a lot of times you can't bring your entire staff with you because maybe while your new employer thinks that you're big time, if I hire you from Kent State, if I hire you from Buffalo, I may not think the entire Buffalo staff can move to Southern Cal, but maybe I think their head coach can. You follow me? So a lot of times you have very, very viable reason to tell your old staff, sorry guys, but I got to go hire from other big programs. Lincoln Riley came from a big-time program, and they were flying high. So Lincoln goes to USC, and I've never had him confirm this to me. It is my working theory that he looked and he said, I owe it to those guys to offer them to come with me. And it's also my opinion that he may secretly have hoped the defensive guys wouldn't. He may have hoped the defensive guys would stay at Oklahoma, but they came with him. And he was tied to a failing defensive coordinator at the outset. And it was pretty obvious to everyone. And I think it was probably obvious to him. But I also don't think he was willing to cut bait after 1 year. So we got a couple of years in. This is not to make excuses. It's his fault. He ultimately did cut bait. But, then you're 3 years in, 4 years in, asking folks to have patience. And that's not always the way it works in major college football. You don't get to experiment on USC's dime. You can do that at a smaller program, but fan bases rightly look and say, man, with what we invest here, no, you got to go proven right out of the gate. You don't experiment, you don't try it out, you don't hope it works. So that's the first thing. The second thing, and this is not all on him, so I won't say this was totally his tactical error. I think that Lincoln Riley going to USC sounded great, and he made it look great. He went out there and he said, if we're going into the NIL era, which we were at the time, where else would you rather be than Los Angeles, California? It made all the sense in the world. The Southern California media market, all the limitless opportunities around USC married with a winning head coach. Hey, it sounded great. Here's the problem. It just sounded great. It wasn't great because they didn't have the alignment there. And I think a lot of that was out of his control, candidly, even though he's the face of it. The staffing wasn't right. The strategy wasn't right. The alignment, it wasn't right. So that on top of having a very, very poor defensive staff set him back. And as a result, his record's gone downhill every year. Some would call that a trend. So what are we entering year 4 now? And if the trend's right, they're going to miss a bowl game this year. Now, I'm going to give you my opinion. I actually don't think they're going to trend that way at all. I actually secretly kind of love what USC's done behind the scenes. I love the defensive moves he made last year. And I don't even think this is a guess. The defensive numbers greatly improved last year. So there's no guesswork there. Like, you give Deonton Lynn more and more runway, they'll just get better and better defensively. I believe that. What else they've done is what that front office always should have looked like and the direction they always should have been going, they finally are going. Like, they're finally pulling triggers they were not willing to pull. The safety was on out there. They just taken the safety off, which never should have been on because it's USC. So here's the question. Are you willing to just draw a line in the sand right now and say, whatever happened in the past happened, we're willing to give you time from this point moving forward. We believe in you. We believe in the direction. We're going to win. If your answer to that is yes, he's going to win there. I think they'll win big time there. I think they'll be a national championship contender sooner rather than later, maybe not this year, but I legitimately think that highly of USC's future. I'm really, really on board with the direction. But here's the other part, and I can't argue with this logic. If you tell me, no, we're not giving you any more time, you better win now, or you're out. It wouldn't be my approach, but I can't get mad at you for feeling that way. Because I do agree, I've always said on the show, if you invest as a fan, what they ask you to invest, you should expect maximum return on that investment. Emotionally and financially, for you, you should expect a return on that. Delayed gratification, I think, will be a thing here. Maybe you shouldn't have had to wait this long, but I think delayed gratification will be a thing. I think the truth about Lincoln Riley is he may be entering a brand new era of his career. And I think the truth about Lincoln Riley is while he's had a lot of really, really good cosmetic seasons, none of those teams were equipped to win a national championship because none of them were complete teams. He feels like, ironically, even off a 7-win season, he feels like he is closer to being able to construct that kind of team now than he has been at any point in his career, to me. But it won't make sense to people who look at his win-loss record from last year because I only just think that thing's starting to turn. It will not be reflected in the record yet. I think it will be if he's given time. We'll see.